well, evening, night, good Sunday. I don't know.
Wow. That was freaking loud. Wow.
You know how I like to do things.
Must have had my microphone turned up just a tad bit too much on that. Holy crap.
Maybe I didn't think I did that loud. But anyway, if you still
There's
can
my
hear
mic.
us, if you can still hear us, because you have hearing left,
Wow.
welcome to another amazing episode of the Odyssey Files. I'm your host, and somebody to probably send your medical bills to, Michael O'Neill. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. David Sorry. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Mike. What medical bills can I send your way? Did I just hear you say that I can send you medical bills?
Hearing loss.
Oh, hearing loss. Oh.
Yes.
I'll just retitle some of the shit that I got that is hearing loss.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'll send it over.
I'll get right on that.
I figured as much. All right. So anyway, good show tonight. Even though we got a topic that I absolutely hate, but I'm the one who picked it, so you know what the hell, right?
Well, that is going to be my first question of the second hour. Is why did you pick this? So
should we not say what the show is about, and we'll just save it to like as a surprise for the second hour?
Well, it doesn't work because the title of the episode is the topic of our second hour.
Yeah, well, maybe nobody read it, so
nope, can't do that because I don't know.
All right.
I don't think mystery topic show is going to be all as attractive as
Gotcha.
World's Most Haunted Dolls.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I will say this without giving anything away for the second hour. There are far more haunted, like known haunted dolls out there than Robert and Annabelle.
Yeah, absolutely. There.
Even though we will go over those two, because I think the reason, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that those two are probably considered the number one is because they have the most background story to them.
Well, I would agree with you on that. I mean, I don't know if I correct you because I don't know that there's any right answer. I mean, obviously, Annabelle's become famous because the Conjuring series picked her up, but she was famous long before that as a true documented kind of something took over that doll, and then bad things started. You know, good things at first, and then it kind of tricked them, and then bad things started. And we can get into that obviously in the second hour. Robert, I think, is interesting in himself just because of the amount of people that attribute their misfortune to him. And we'll get into that in the second hour, and whether that's something that's true or whether that is just a really mass hip psychosis going on, which we'll talk about that.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because it's interesting, because I don't see any reason why Robert should be haunted from his background story. There's just no reason for him to be evil. So I don't know why, but anyway, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
we're already getting into the second hour. So
yeah, we're already getting into the second hour.
We'll put that aside. So first, we obviously have more listener emails that we have to get through and share with everybody. I just want to say, because it's something that I don't do and I should, before we get into the mailbag, and that is, how do you become a part of the mailbag? And that is, you can either write Dave and I a wonderfully worded email, proofread and spell checked, is very, very much appreciated.
If not, I take care of that. If for some reason it comes across with some really poor English, and trust me, there's been a few that have come in that have been
yes,
indeed, that I've had to go through and kind of adjust, but
Odyssey Files Radio at gmail.com is where you can email that, or you can just go to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, especially, and just send us a message, and we'll get it. And we'll probably will end up happening is we'll use it, but we'll send you your own private answer, and say this is what we think specifically to you, and then we'll obviously probably reiterate most of it on on the show. So we said odysseyfilesradio@gmail.com for you to be part of
Of this.
The Odyssey Files is proud to present the Mailbag. Sorry, I was trying to throw in like a really good transition into the opening.
Threw me off.
Well, just as I hit it.
It was good in the sense that I was like, what? What the hell's going on?
Just as I hit the button, I heard you start to talk. I'm like, whoops.
Yeah, that's okay.
Like, my bad.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. I was just trying to transition right into the opening for it. So, all right. Are we ready?
We are ready.
All right.
We are ready.
So, technically, this is number 5 of what would have been last week. And so we'll be starting with higher numbers instead of just 1, 2, 3, 4, just to let everybody know why we're like, sorry, number 5. All right, here we go.
Yep.
How can I keep ghosts and spirits away from me, period? Ever since a loved one passed away and visited me in my dreams, I've been bombarded by other spirits when I'm just trying to get rest. It's stressful and I want to be left alone. It's currently only when I dream, but I want to keep the good, bad, evil, and everything else away. I don't want to have their stress become my stress, and I don't want to help them. Everything I read is how to keep the negative away, but I want it all away. Please, guys, help me. All right. First, I get it. I'm not a big fan of the I don't want to help them attitude, but I get it. Some people really want to be left alone, and totally get it, and it's understandable. So, obviously, most people don't really go out of their way to throw out the good, your loved ones and everything like that. So that's why you don't find hardly anything about it, because it's just not really something that most people like want, especially since and Dave will probably reiterate this, so I won't touch too much on it. But you set your boundaries. The good spirits will listen. When you're dealing with somebody who is intelligent and is actually trying to reach out to you on purpose, if they get that wall or they get that intent from you, they will abide by it. So my advice here is there's no guarantee that anything that we say is going to get rid of everything everywhere for the rest of your life. If whatever it is you choose to do, whether it's based off our advice or not, you're probably going to have to continually do it. The only absolute 100% way of keeping things out of your home, from what I know, is tar water. Putting a drop in each room. Whoever knows, you can find a medium or whatever that would be able, mystical person that would be able to create and know how to use it. That, for all my knowledge, keeps all spirits out of your living establishment forever. However, once you leave your house, you're fair game. So it's not a all-encompassing one, but you'll be able to sleep in your house and never have to deal with the spirit again. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you don't go that route. You can't find somebody to do it, whatever. That's where you just you pretty much just set your boundaries. You sit there right before you're going to go to bed and you say flat out, I want to be left alone. I'm shutting myself down. No spirit is able to communicate with me for any reason. And I know you're probably looking for help, but I'm not the one to come to for that. You're going to have to go someplace else. And that intent then is carried on. And it should, if these are actually spirits that are coming to you in your dreams, should make it at least go substantially down or stop.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as establishing boundaries. And I know tar water obviously is kind of to me, tar water would be a last resort because it's such a finite type of move. But they do say that they don't want any spirits at all. Like they don't want any contact at all. The only thing, so obviously I've talked about establishing boundaries. I mean, I talk about it all the time. The only thing that I'm not sure of is how to shut yourself down when you're dreaming. Because if the only type of, okay, so let's take this kind of verbatim, right? So currently only when I dream things are happening. So right there you need to differentiate. The big question that I would have right away, I guess, and I'm sure you have it too, is if you're dreaming, is it just a dream? Are you just having a dream? Or is a spirit trying to contact you? Now, you had a loved one passed away and visited you in your dreams. That could have been your subconscious reaching out to them to have a memory of them, even if it's not something that happened, but something that you wished would have happened. Like, let's say that your grandmother never gave you a hug or said, "I love you," ever. And then she passed away, but you were really close and she was really close with you. She just wasn't a hugger, right? And you really, in your mind, you thought to yourself, boy, if grandma would just give me a hug and tell me that she loved me, that would be like fulfill a hole in my heart. Then she passes and it never happened. It could be powerful enough in you that you manifest it in your dreams. It's not her coming to you, that's you manifesting the contact with her. I don't know if you can protect yourself in dreams. As far as I would imagine, like Mike said, if you verbalize it while you're in your bedroom, laying in bed, I don't want to be disturbed by anything. I don't want to be contacted by anything, blah, blah, blah. And you make it like and you say it out loud and you're definitive about it and you're sure, 100% sure about it as you say it. I would say that that's the best you can do. I don't know any other way that you can keep an entity or keep a spirit that has passed or keep aliens or keep any of the other things that we talk about out of your dream state. I just thought if it were that easy, Freddy Krueger wouldn't have never killed any of those kids. Right. I mean, I'm just thinking, right. I just don't know in reality if there is a way to keep them out. I would agree with you. I don't necessarily think everything you read, obviously you're probably focusing on that. There is good information out there on how to protect yourself from spirits. I know that a lot of it focuses on the negative because that's what people are scared of. And so most of the information that's out there probably is going to be focused on stuff that people are afraid of. And how do I keep these things that I'm afraid of away from me? So I don't look information like that up. But I'm sure if I did, most of the stuff that you would read about would be how to keep negative spirits away from you. I think the best option that you have is intention. I mean, you certainly can keep negative things away from you. If you're religious, wear a blessed cross. If wear it to bed, put 4 blessed medallions in the corner of the room. You can put 4 blessed medals in the 4 corners of your property after your house is cleared, and those 4 blessed medals will create a barrier and keep things out of negative stuff. Obviously, if your grandmother who you loved, or your mom, or your dad, or your sister, brother, cousin, whatever, is not obviously a negative thing. If they want to come visit you, the religious medal is not going to keep them away, nor is it tar water. I don't know. I don't have a great answer for this one. It's a good question. I'm kind of reaching. I think as far as keeping negative stuff away, go with the advice that we just gave you. I don't know that that's going to keep a loved one from coming, though, and visiting you in your dream.
There is one
It's a
more
good
thing
question to ask some of our friends, I think. Like some of our friends that would probably have a better knowledge of that than we do.
I'm on it.
Just out of curiosity, because I think that's a pretty deep question, really, because they're specifically asking about dream visitations, and I'm not an expert in dream visitations.
There is one thing that came to mind that I thought of with your answer when you said you reached out, with your subconscious or whatever. Since this is in a dream state and only in a dream state, I mean, is it possible that this person is astral projecting and not knowing it? And so she's encountering all of these other beings. Maybe they're either astral projecting or she's going
Good
to
question.
different planes and encountering people. Maybe she is encountering people who, have passed on or whatnot. But I mean, if she doesn't know that she's doing it and she's having all these interactions with these other people in her dream, she might take it as them coming to her, not understanding that she is literally going to them, or
That
just
she's seeking them, yeah.
or not maybe not even seeking them, but she's putting herself in a position where she encounters them. So I mean, that just came to mind as you were talking about, like the subconscious intent and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
So I mean, it's tough because I mean, I've talked to, I've discussed things with a lot of people who attract spirits and get spirits to come to them, and the methods that they use to shut themselves down each night. None of them is ever like, it's always in my dreams. So, I mean, I'm with you. Like, this is unique where it's only in a dreamlike state. And so I'm wondering if it's not, she's interpreting what she's encountering as a dream, as opposed to maybe something else.
This might be a future show topic.
Dream visitations?
Yeah, visitation dreams. There's a lot. There's actually, like I just pulled up a little information here and just jumped on a couple sites quick as we're talking about it. And there's some very interesting stuff that we could talk about dream visitations right here. So, I mean, just on this one site, I saw 5 or 6 topics that I'm going to tag that site that we could talk about for a future show. So I don't want to get into that now because we've got other questions tonight, and it's already 20 after. So the best advice we have for now is establish your boundaries, right before you go to sleep. Just say that I choose not to be visited. I choose to be left alone. And then just try to clear your mind, do a little bit of meditation before you fall asleep. Don't be on your phone right until the last second until you go to sleep. Do a little bit, give yourself 15, 20 minutes to decompress, let everything from the day go, relax, breathing exercises, whatever. It'll give you you'll get a much better quality sleep. Pretty much guarantee that. And if that doesn't work, then reach back out to us again. I mean, try some of these things that we said and see how it goes. If that doesn't work, if you're still getting visitation dreams, then we need to get more specific about it, and then just send us a private PM if you want to, get into this conversation deeper, because it's going to depend. Is it good? Is it bad? How do you differentiate between the two? Things like that. That would be the discussion that we would have, and then based on that, we could give you advice and we could make a path and try and help you more. Anything else you want to add to that, Mike, before we move on?
No, I'm writing to our resident, we don't know what this is, colleague.
Help us. Yeah.
just to see what she says. And I'm doing both. Is there a way to just shut it all off forever? And, is it possible if it's only in a dream state, it could astral projection be the answer?
Yeah, I mean, astral projection, lucid dreaming, there's a lot of stuff that can be happening in there that I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, while you're waiting for that answer, I'm going to move on. So,
Yep. Head on.
number 6 from last week. So, what should I do? Hey guys, got a question for you. We recently purchased an older house to restore, and we had it saged just before the eclipse. Right after that, we discovered a major leak in the house. It's a new one that a contractor we hired was responsible for, which, if it had not been discovered, would have cost us a ton more money and time. During the search for the leak, we opened up the floorboards and found a picture of the first owner. I'm guessing it's from the 1920s, as the house was built in 1920. It shows a very happy lady in front of her house with her dog. I'm convinced this is not a coincidence. The chances of opening up exactly that particular floorboard were super slim. I'm convinced she wanted to help us, as we have put a lot of work and love into restoring the house. Now, my question is, what do I do with the picture? It just feels wrong putting her back under the floorboards. I would totally agree with that. I also went to our town hall to search for records of who she is, but there is no definitive answer as of yet. What would you guys do? I was thinking of framing the picture and displaying it. I also thought if that I found her grave, I would bring flowers and something else and would thank her. Again, your thoughts. Well, first of all, I never say 100%, but I'm going to say 100%. You certainly are not going to take the picture and put it back under the floorboards. The reason that was put there, there was a lot. It happens all the time. People, the house was built for her. It was her house. Whether it was built for her, whether it was designed for her, whether she built it herself, who knows, right? Her dad built it. I mean, obviously, it was a very special place to her. She put the picture of herself under the floorboards as kind of a time capsule kind of thing. Time capsules are all over the place. There's hundreds of millions of them. Whether they're discovered or not is another thing. But like putting shoes in the walls used to be a thing that was a big deal back in the 20s and the 1900s, 10s, 20s. As you built the house, you'd put a shoe in the wall, or you'd put a family heirloom piece in the wall. And it was just there, kind of built into the structure to protect the place. Superstition, maybe, good luck, horseshoe type of thing over the door. The fact that you found it, what should you do with it? I totally think that you should take it and frame it and put it out someplace. It was her house. If you believe that you were drawn by her spirit to that floorboard and you were meant to find that picture, then obviously you want to pay it some respect, because she asked you, she sent you to the picture, you found the picture. The best way that you could thank her for that, or thank her for whatever you want to thank her for, is by displaying her picture in the house somewhere. Doesn't necessarily have to be front and center with all your family photos. It can be anywhere in the house. Put it in a frame, put it out in the house someplace. If people ask you who that is, obviously you can talk about it and just say, hey, I found it under the floorboards. Tell the story. If she's there, she probably would love hearing the story about how you think it's the lady who bought had the house built, or was the first owner of the house, and that she loved it so much. And this is a picture of her and her dog and how happy she was with this home. So that's my advice for that. As far as finding her grave, taking flowers, doing something else, I think you're going way overboard there. I don't know what the intention to that would be. To me, that's only going to take a very simple thing like paying respect to the person whose house it was, and taking it 10 steps farther than it needs to be, and possibly opening up some sort of doorway for an attachment. I don't think there's any reason whatsoever for you to go find her grave and take flowers and do other things. That would be for her loved ones, if they're still paying respect to her grave. That would be for family and loved ones and stuff like that. So leave that alone. If you want to find out her name, that's perfectly fine. You should have absolutely no problem finding search records at the recorder's office in your county. That's where you would look. And it will and it might not be online. You might have to actually go look through the book, but it'll be there. All that is recorded at it's all at the recorder's office in your county. Just might take a little bit of effort. So then you could put a name to her, put a picture out, verbally say out loud, hey, I really appreciate what you did. And, I appreciate the fact that you're still here, and we're going to fix this house up and make it beautiful again. And I would leave it at that, and just appreciate the fact that she's around still.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to that. I completely agree with taking the photo and getting it framed and putting it up as just and, and I agree with you wholeheartedly on the whole flowers and stuff. I think just putting her picture up is
Yeah.
is enough homage. It's enough
Yeah.
respect. I mean, she's probably not even looking at that. Um, the thing about it is it might not have anything to do with you. It,
Right.
she could have just simply been wanting to save her house and had nothing to do with trying to save you money or save your lives or anything. This leak, and I don't think it really said what the leak was. Did it? Just said there was a leak.
Yeah, just a leak. I'm thinking water leak. I
Water or
wouldn't think it was
gas.
a gas leak. Well, I wouldn't think it was a gas leak because why would you rip up floorboards if it was a gas leak? You wouldn't. So I'm guessing it's water. Something happened where water got on the floor and started popping the floorboards. Kind of regretfully what happened when your dishwasher line broke.
Yeah.
And you
I
had the
was just
same
thinking
kind
the
of
same
thing.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's first thing that popped in my head was, so it would have been similar to that where when your floorboards buckled in your kitchen and you pulled up those boards, had it been an older house, potentially there might have been like the original owner might have just put a little time capsule photo of the family there, them and the family or whatever. I think just doing a simple put it in a frame and display it and find out her name. And that's as far as I would take it. I wouldn't take it any further.
Yeah. And when you put it up, just say, hey, this is say thank you for allowing us to, continue to live here and fix this up. And you're welcome to stay here as long as you need to, and leave it at that and move on with life.
Right.
The only thing that really kind of uh, like flew into my head as you were you were talking, because you were like, maybe it's a water leak that caused them to pull up the floorboards. maybe it was the spirit that started the leak.
Maybe.
And the whole thing was an attempt to get you to pull up the floorboards to find her photo.
Now, in that case, there would be something deeper going on here.
Yeah.
Because for the spirit to cause some sort of actual physical damage to the house that would lead to you specifically going to where the photo is, there would be something deeper. There's some sort of deeper thing there, like she's trying to communicate with you very desperately. This is a major move in communication, in the line of communication from her.
Yeah,
for some reason.
I don't think
but
that's
I don't know if I read that into it.
No, and I honestly don't either. It was just interesting how you had said about pulling up the floorboards because of the leak.
Yeah.
And found the photo. I'm like, maybe she started it. just me being a sarcastic ass. That's all.
Maybe she doesn't like butterscotch yellow in the kitchen. Maybe she wants you to choose a different paint color. I agree.
All right. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that. So, all right, now we're up to number one.
Week.
I'm being asked to house sit where I've had paranormal experiences before. How can I prepare? Okay, so this house was built in 1892 and currently serves as a bed and breakfast. The owners are a friend of my mother's. It was a private residence for several decades, then a hospice for 30 years, then a private residence again, and now a B&B. It's 5 stories plus a basement and built in a large Victorian style. Love it already.
Mm-hmm.
I helped the owners move furniture a while back and nothing major happened, but I was with the owners of the house at the time. However, there were certain rooms where I could definitely sense something was off in moments when I was the only physical body in a room where I didn't feel alone. I don't think it was necessarily a malevolent presence, but a presence for sure. The owners of the house don't want to believe in paranormal activity. Shocker. Well, the husband doesn't for sure. The wife, I'm not so sure about. I'd be there dog sitting for 3 days and 3 nights. Can you please share any and all insight and advice you guys might possess I'm not into paranormal stuff and I don't go seeking it out, which is why I'm hesitant to say yes. But they have been good to me, and especially my mom, so I don't want to say no. Thanks. I totally get it. The whole loyalty thing, and you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Um, I don't really know if you need to prepare. At least in the way you're talking about, I think the only thing you really need to do is prepare yourself. And I talk to my investigators all the time, and people who come up to us, when they see us in public at conventions and events and stuff like that, and they ask, you know what is it like and stuff like that to be an investigator. And I'll say it flat out, and I'm sure Dave will agree with me. At least 80% of being an investigator is how you handle yourself.
Mm.
And if you go in there fearful and that every knock and creak of the floor is a footstep or a presence, and it's all in your head, you're psyching yourself out, you're setting yourself up to believe that every noise is a spirit trying to come after you. I think with the times that you have been there, and the fact that these new owners, they obviously have not had encounters where anybody has been injured. Guests and stuff like that, they would be reporting that type of thing. Are there spirits there? I have no doubt. I mean, especially 30 years as a hospice. Yeah. There is absolutely probably a presence, a spirit, some former resident that is still there. But do they mean anybody harm? I mean, you said it yourself, it's not a malevolent spirit. So don't act as though it is. They're not going to harm you. Are they going to be there? Might you sense them? Absolutely. But if it makes you uncomfortable, leave the room. Like, they're not there to harm you. They might not even be aware of you, depending on their level of like consciousness. So I honestly don't think you really need to do as much as I think you're thinking you do. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a lot of thinking in there. If it would make you feel more comfortable, you can take a protection stone with you, keep it in your pocket, wear it on a necklace, something. Tourmaline is a good protection stone. Stuff like that. Amethyst is
Rose quartz.
Rose quartz. You know, you can look it up online, protection crystals and stuff, and you can go to a local metaphysical shop or whatever, and like every town has one.
Yeah.
And just get something that will make you feel more comfortable. But honestly, your 3 days and 3 nights there, I think, are all going to be based on your ability to keep yourself sane. And just not take everything as some sort of attack on you. If you can do that, I think you'll be just fine. That's my advice.
Yeah, I agree with you. As far as this place having activity, 30 years as a hospice, it's got activity. Most of it's, I would not doubt that most of it is residual. But to the uneducated, residual intelligent, it's irrelevant. You see an entity, half manifestation, that's just replaying itself on a loop, but that's something that you've never seen before, or you're not used to it. It doesn't really matter whether it's intelligent or residual. It's still going to scare the shit out of you and cause you to freak out. So I agree with you, Mike, that the biggest thing here is don't overthink it and don't psych yourself out. This kind of reminds me of the Thomas house, and in the respect of like the B&B owners not wanting to believe. They probably know that stuff is happening there, but they don't want to entertain the fact that it's happening there. That could be from a business standpoint, where they don't want to have They don't want the bed and breakfast to be known as a place that has activity because they're afraid it's going to kill the business. Totally understand that. There are a group of people that want to go and stay at haunted places, but the majority of people do not want to go to a bed and breakfast, I would say, and have some sort of haunting. That's not what they're looking for. It's odd people like us that would choose a B&B. Like if I were going to go to a B&B, I would look for a B&B that was like purportedly haunted. And I would stay there, and I would stay in the room that's active. But that's just me. I'm a little off center. That's why we talk about all the stuff that we talk about on the show, and why we have this show in the first place, as an outlet to talk about these things that are kind of out there and a little bit different off of mainstream. So don't psych yourself out. If you want to feel better and you're religious, wear a blessed cross. Have faith in your religion. Ground yourself. If you ground yourself in your faith, great. If you don't have a major faith that you follow, ground yourself just by being a human being. Take off your shoes, walk into the front yard, take off your shoes, stand there quietly for a minute, close your eyes, do a couple breathing exercises, feel yourself becoming one with the earth, let your feet be in the grass. Imagine yourself, as Michelle Belanger taught me 20 years ago, plus maybe at least 20 years ago. See yourself as an oak tree, a giant sturdy oak or a redwood or something that's
hey Dave.
Huge. Yeah.
Like, hold on.
Yeah.
It might not even be you. It's just you kept on coming over, like you were losing internet, but now my headphones like lost connection with my computer. So it might have just been mine. So I just wanted to stop you really, really quick, but now it seems to be back to normal. So continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I looked down right when you said that my internet's full strength. It hasn't fluctuated, but anyway, so ground yourself, see yourself as this immovable force, immovable object, and then establish your boundaries. When you walk into the house, just say, hi, I'm Ted, and I am here to, your name's not Ted, but just say, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to watch the dogs for a couple days. And while I'm here, I would like to spend quality time with the dogs and quality time doing the things that I'm doing. And I don't want to have any type of interactions with anybody who might still be here. Say it in a polite way, but in a firm way. Say that you appreciate the fact that they're there. I appreciate the fact if you're still here, that's great. I have absolutely no intention whatsoever to try to remove you or to do anything to cause you any inconvenience or harm. But in the same respect, I just want to be here, and I just want to relax and chill out for 3 days and take care of the dogs and enjoy myself in this beautiful house. And maybe you'll catch me if you follow me around. Maybe you'll see me do a little bit of exploring. Nothing naughty, but it's a beautiful house and it's 5 stories, and I might go explore a little bit while the owners are out of town. I think that it's as simple as that. Honestly, I don't think there's anything more to it than that. Is there activity there? I'm sure there is. If you establish your boundaries, do you have anything to worry about? If you ground yourself, do you have anything to worry about? If you take in stones, if you take in crystals with you because that's what you're into, if you reach to your faith and establish a grounding, you ground yourself in your crystals. Do you have anything to worry about? No, you don't have anything to worry about. If there was anything there that was going to do anybody harm, it would have done it. Like we've talked about all the time, when something negative is at a property, it doesn't wait. The only time that we talk about things that wait is when there's some sort of personal vendetta or a personal type battle going on. And in that situation, then we get into the whole relativity of time conversation again, where 6 months for us, 6 days for us might be 6 minutes on the other side, or 6 minutes for us might be 6 years on the other, in a different realm. And so time is irrelevant, and you're not picking a fight here. You're just going in to do them a favor. Don't worry about it. I think you're going to be just fine. Now, if you're not, if something really major happens, contact us. Give us the address of the place, and we'll be there.
Because Dave wants to sleep there.
because we will be there. I'll call the owners. We'll get them on for a show, and we'll talk about the place. And then I will go and stay there. If Mike doesn't want to go, I will go and stay there and investigate the place. All right, so that's all I have for that. I think you're going to be perfectly fine. I think you might be just over making it something more than it needs to be. Okay, number 2, my kid won't sleep in her bed and my ex thinks it's a ghost. So my daughter is almost 7 and will not sleep in her bedroom because she's too scared to. My ex is a witch, not just figuratively, and believes that the spirit of the old lady that sold us the house is in my daughter's room, and that's why she's scared to sleep in there. I just found out a few weeks ago that she sleeps with my ex on the floor next to her bed. The carpet was ripped up a year ago and still hasn't been replaced, so my kid is sleeping on the plywood floor because of this. By the way, we're divorced and I don't live there anymore. Her new stepsister, who's 18, doesn't even sleep in the bedroom, and it has bunk beds for both of them. I feel like something is definitely going on that is freaking them out. Is there anything I could possibly do to cleanse the room or something? I'm not a big believer, but I'll do anything to help my kid. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. P.S. I just remembered that there is a wardrobe kind of thing in the attic with some clothes in it that the previous owner left. I'm familiar with the concept of objects like that being the source of paranormal troubles. Could this possibly be the catalyst? Could it possibly be the catalyst? Yeah, it possibly could. I think that's a great add-on as a PS to this because I think there's all kinds of potential things going on here. Right? And the most glaring fact is that your ex is a practicing witch and doesn't say what kind of witch and who knows what they're into and who knows what they've done and if they're conjuring or if they're placing spells against people, which, as we know and talk to other witches, and we are going to have an episode on kind of negative witchcraft here sometime in the future. We were trying to do it for October, but it fell through. But it's coming, so be on the lookout for that. But we've heard from people who are familiar with it that if you cast evil darkness that spells against somebody, if they have the ability to kind of protect themselves from that, you get hit back with a trifold. Throw a stone, get hit with 3 stones type of mentality. So that is where my mind went to first here. Is this old lady who sold you the house the source? Is this wardrobe thing with her clothes in it the source? I don't know. I'll tell you the first thing I would do, I would get rid of the wardrobe. If you think that there's even a potential that has anything to do with this, then I would certainly get rid of it. I would get rid of the clothes in it for sure. There's no reason for her to have her personal effects in there. Clothing is a personal effect. A wardrobe is just an object that you own. So there's a big difference in trying to define what is something that somebody would be attached to. Clothes that you wear in your life is a personal object. You know, a wardrobe is not a personal object. It's an object that you own. But that said, if you want to get rid of it just to be safe, if it's nothing special to you, if it's nothing obviously it's up in the attic, so it's nothing special to anybody. It's not like it's been brought down and put into the bedroom. Get rid of it. Get rid of the clothes, get rid of the wardrobe, donate it, sell it, do whatever you want to do. Get rid of it. And then I would, personally, I would have the house blessed, but with your ex being a witch, that probably is not going to happen. For somebody who's not into the paranormal, is there anything that you could do, like cleanse the room or something? Man, I feel you as a father. I would do anything for my kids. If they were in a situation where like this, where they needed help, I would have already been there. Is there something you can do? No. Because you don't have any experience and you don't know what you're doing. So I would say that that's probably not the best line to take here. I think that the best thing that you can do is when you have time to spend with your daughter is to sit down and talk to her, discuss what's going on, get her to open up to you and find out exactly what's happening and try and get a really clear picture of what's going on. And then I think maybe, and I don't want to sound repetitive here, but maybe go back to the concept of getting some crystals. for protection. Buy her a piece of jewelry, buy her a necklace that has a rose quartz on it, or tourmaline, or something that's pretty, that's special for her, but that also can act as some type of boundary for her to keep her more secure, more safe, more relaxed, less apt to be in a situation where she's being scared all the time. So that's really my best advice. I leave this with a question as I throw it to Mike. Why would you believe that the spirit of the old lady that sold you the house is there? I mean, that would, number one, she'd have to be dead. If she wasn't dead, then I don't know why you would even be going there. But that would be my question. If this was an actual case, I guess that would be the question I would ask, is what makes you think that it's the old lady that sold you the house? But help your daughter by spending quality time with her.
I would, okay, I gotta think of where I'm going to start here, because there's a couple things. One, I'm really, really surprised. Like, I thought you were going to go after the mother for letting her kids sleep on plywood floors.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there because that would have been a personal rant. I'm trying not to do that on the show.
But that was the first thing that caught my eye in this one. I was just like, how are we not like focusing on the fact that the mother just seems to be a complete bitch?
Yeah, exactly.
Not a witch, but the B word. Not only that, but he learned several weeks ago that the daughter's sleeping on the floor, which means the mother, who is the witch, is doing nothing to actually fix what is going on. So, I mean, dark magic or light magic, you would think that if she was, especially if it was just a like Jody, like Wes, that sort of thing, like they would help whatever spirit is there move on and, settle everything down and not just let weeks and weeks go past with your daughter sleeping on the floor. And apparently you in the bed. So that kind of just got me a little angry, but I won't rant on that. I'm not a parent. I'm just somebody looking in from the outside. So let's just stick to.
Yeah, I tried to stay away from that, but I agree with exactly what you just said.
But no need to go any more than that. Got the statement out. So I'm assuming that he is assuming it's the old woman or whatever that sold him the house, because that's what she tells him. And since she's into that, the part that other world or whatever with her witchcraft, that she's going to know, quote unquote, know that what spirit is there. So going on the assumption that it is the old lady that did the house, or that sold him the house, this seems more than anything like the perfect case for a reputable paranormal team to do, because this old lady might mean absolutely no harm. Maybe your daughter's bedroom used to be hers, and she means no harm to anybody, but your daughter doesn't understand that. Could the wardrobe and the clothes in it be the catalyst? Yes, but I don't think it is. But again, that is something a paranormal team would figure out. They'd be able to see if there's any sort of energy around the wardrobe. Is there any sort of connection? You don't have to get rid of the wardrobe. You could just cut the ties to it if that's what it takes. But yeah, I think if the wardrobe is not the catalyst, let's just say it's the old lady just wants to be part of her house now that she has passed away, getting rid of the wardrobe is only going to make her mad. And then something bad might happen to somebody in the house. I don't necessarily think it'll be your kids. Maybe you want the wife or the ex-wife or whatever to suffer a little bit. But so you tell her, yeah, go ahead and get rid of that. It'll be great. She'll love it. But I think that this is something where you need to be very careful as to what steps you take and figure out what string, if you pull it, is going to be attached to what, result. There is a way to do this. I mean, I love these type of cases when it comes to, like old homeowners, because then we can go in and we can say, if you're trying to just stay here, here are the rules, and any like really good and positive spirit is going to understand that. And uh, they can ask him, is the wardrobe, is the wardrobe why you're still here? Do you want us to get rid of it? Can we get rid of it? Like just going and doing certain things without knowing what you're actually dealing with. And as Dave said, how do you even know it is the old woman? Just because the ex-wife said
Right.
so? It
Right.
could be something completely different.
It could be something that she's dabbling with that is following her around that's effing with her kid.
Yeah.
Easy victim, right? That's what we always say. Dark entities look for the easiest victim.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's honestly, if it is somebody like that, and let's just say it is some dark energy or whatever, I don't think moving your daughter to another room is going to help you. It's not going to be like, oh, moved her out of my, out of my ability to do anything. No, it doesn't work that way.
No.
So, I mean, let's be hopeful that it is just the old woman and she just loves her house, and wants to stay there. It might even be a residual feeling. The kid is innocent. She's still in the frame of mind where she might pick up on certain things. So, like I said, this is a very good case for a paranormal team. This is
Mhm.
what we do and why we do it, to find these answers. So one, you don't have to, and two, you don't make the mistake of making the wrong choice, because that can be much worse than just doing it. And I I don't know. I would try to get alimony from your ex-wife just out of spite, or custody of the kids. I don't know. That's got
Yeah.
nothing to do with the paranormal. That's just me hating your ex-wife.
I would
um,
I would buy your kid a GoPro, and I would have her document the fact that she's sleeping on a wood floor, and then take your wife to court. But that's for two guys and some chips. That's not a
Two guys.
paranormal topic. That's a rant topic for me. But yes, I agree with you. I mean, I would. The big thing here is taking care of the 7-year-old child.
Yes.
Right. That's the main thing here. Obviously, the guy's trying to take care of his daughter. You know, she's with the mom for whatever reason. If that was agreed upon or if it was court decided or whatever, it's irrelevant. We won't know the answer to that, and it's really not our business. But um, the big thing here is protecting your kid. And so, if you have to protect your kid from afar, there are things you can do to protect your child from afar, or at least give her some ammunition for keeping her safe, like getting crystals, buying her a piece of jewelry with those energy crystals on it, uh, so that because your ex being a witch, she's probably going to identify immediately if your daughter shows up with something like just a big hunk of tourmaline, or like a big thing of rose quartz. That's not what I mean. Get something more delicate, something that your daughter can wear every day, a ring, a necklace, a bracelet, something like that, and have her start wearing it, and talk to her about believing in it, and talk to her about grounding herself, and talk to her about faith in whatever her faith is in, and give her protection bubble, and then that at least that will keep the boundaries around herself somewhat secure, and then at least you've got that peace of mind while you work on alleviating things like your daughter sleeping on a plywood floor, um, because your ex is a bitch.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that.
So,
Um, all right. Well, we're gonna go to break.
Yep.
And when we come back, we will be talking about the world's most haunted dolls. So until then, we'll see you on the other side.
This is Susan Slaughter from Paranormal Caught on Camera, introducing you to the most epic show ever, The Odyssey Files with David Soyering and Michael O'Neill. You're welcome. Pew, 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 pew.
Hey, this is Grant Wilson from Ghost Hunters, and if you ever have time that you never want to get back, spend it listening to Mike and Dave on the Odyssey Files.
This is Heather Taddy of Paranormal State and Alien Highway. I can't say that the Odyssey Files are out of this world, but Mike and Dave are quite abductable.
Hey, this is Dustin Perry from Ghost Hunters, and you're listening to Dave and Mike on the Odyssey Files. It's not the best show you're ever going to listen to, but it's also probably not the worst.
This is Michelle Belanger, author of The Dictionary of Demons. What is faster than a speeding shadow person and more fun than an anal probe? It's Mike and Dave of the Odyssey Files. Hold on to your hats and buns.
This is Elizabeth Saint. You know, in my journeys I've confronted an over 1,000-year-old demon from the depths of Shepherdstown. But then, you know what happened? I came across Mike and Dave. And hot damn, nothing could have prepared me for the Odyssey Files. My second favorite radio show. I love you guys.
All righty, and we are back. So, whatever stories we didn't get to this week, we'll get to next week.
Yep.
Because we have a lot to talk about here in the second hour.
Yeah, we do. I think before, like, let's just talk about the general thought of like haunted dolls before we get into specific like haunted dolls. Like, I think about that a lot. Like, what would cause a doll to be haunted? And then and I tried to look up like the history of haunted dolls, and I tried to go back in time and find, and there is some fascinating stuff that goes back even like 4,000 years. But I wonder if it's the stories of the transference of like a soul, whether somebody's giving it, like if somebody's killing themselves and then placing their soul in it to hide, or whether it's some sort of energy transfer at a moment of tragicness. A little girl's in an automobile back in the 20s, and she's got her dolly with her, and there's an automobile accident, and she gets ejected, and she's flying through the air with the doll, hugging on her doll, and then, impact, and she passes away from her injuries, and she's got that doll with her. Is it possible for her soul, for her energy, to be transferred to an inanimate object or not? Or is her soul just moving on with everybody else's soul?
I think that her soul would move on to somebody else's, or like everybody else,
some other place. Yeah, I would agree with you.
I mean,
but there are haunted dolls, right? I mean, I have seen haunted dolls, but I have documented the fact that something weird is going on that shouldn't be happening around specific objects. And it's not just dolls, it's other objects too. But for some reason, dolls really F with me.
I know. We'll get to that here in a moment.
Yeah. We'll get to my irrational fears.
So
I'm not the only one, by the way.
No,
it's a big thing for people to be scared of dolls.
There is a term,
pediophobia.
pediophobia.
Yeah.
Pediophobia. So here's what I think is the reason why. So I think it's because dolls, more so than, a pillow or, a tire or anything like that, and it can be used as a working vessel. I mean, if you take our soul out of our bodies, we call ourselves meat suits
Mhm.
because we're just, bones and blood and stuff would
Muscle
be
and yeah,
muscle. Yeah. But you take our soul out of us and we're
right,
no different than dolls. We're just filled with different stuff.
right,
So when you break it down to its essential like foundation, again, it's just energy.
right.
Everything is energy. So whether we're filled with muscle, whether we're filled with cotton, it's the energy that gets put in it that is what causes it to have a life or to do stuff. So I mean, I don't know if human uh souls are able to do something like that. I almost all these dolls or whatever seem to have some sort of deity or a demon or something. I mean, they claim like was it Robert the doll or was it Letta the doll? I don't know. We'll get to that in a minute. But they're like, yeah, it's possessed with the soul of a boy that drowned. What? Like I can't
Right.
get behind that. So I mean, I think the fact that it's a doll is just because it's that type of vessel and not so much the doll that is really all that important. I mean, if you think about it, if you were to use uh, a doll and put it with circuitry and robotics and stuff like that, it could walk and talk and it could do anything that we could do, even though it has no muscles and no heart or anything. It can do everything a human can do, depending on the power that's behind it. So I mean, trying to possess a rock really doesn't do very much. So I mean,
Right.
I think it's just the utility of the vessel that that makes whatever entity is trying to possess something possess a doll because it's got arms and legs and heads and mouth. It's got everything that we have.
Right.
It,
It's the,
it,
it's the closest replic. It's the closest replicant to a human being.
right. I mean, and if you take into consideration that no vessel can harness two souls in it, or two life forces or anything like that, which is probably why possession moves the other soul out. um but you can't possess a dog or an animal just because they have their own souls, if you want to believe that type of belief. So you need something that's mobile,
Inanimate.
inanimate and soulless.
Right.
And dolls, by all accounts, although I would really, really love to see like an Optimus Prime haunted doll. I think that would be amazing.
That would be pretty amazing.
I would. I honestly, I would go see that in a museum. If it was this Optimus Prime doll, he can morph into the truck anytime it wants to, and it's like Octobot, roll, that sort of thing. I would love it. But yeah, so that's my take on that. I just think it's the vessel of efficiency for any soul or any whatever that's trying to do it. Um, I think if you had a very powerful soul, whether it was human or not, I think they could probably possess a doll too if they wanted to. Um, but honestly, that's where I have no idea on how that actually works. I just think that that's why it works.
I would agree with you. I think that the concept of it being a non-human spirit that's possessing them probably makes more sense, because I don't know that there's a haunted doll, and I'm sure there probably is, but I didn't find it when I was looking. And so I'm just going to say this as non-researched information. I don't know that there's a haunted doll that brings positivity to its owner. Like, I don't think that they're all negative per se, but I don't think that there's a doll that brings, for what Annabelle is, or what Peggy is, or what Lily is, or Robert is. I don't know that there's the antithesis of that in a shining white light type of moment. You know, like, oh, I own this doll and I have nothing but great fortune. You know, my love life is incredible. My every day I get new wealth from somewhere. It just shows up. I don't even do anything. I just sit on the couch, and next thing you know, there's 50 grand in my account, or I buy a scratch. Every time I buy a scratch off, I win the $25,000 grand prize, or, you know, like, it just, all of this greatness just is bestowed upon me. You know, if I was in 5 major car accidents, I didn't even walk out with a bruise or a scratch on any of them. You know, I've never been hurt. I've never been sick. You know, and it's all because of this doll that I got from my grandma when I was a baby. Like, I don't know that there's a true story, documented true story, that would match what I just threw out there. Now, is there some stories? Possibly. Is there truth, documented truth behind them? You know, I don't know.
You know, the thing about that is that if there was anything like that, it would not be considered a haunted doll. It would be considered a good luck charm.
Well, it would still be haunted in the true terms,
right?
So
it'd
be a positive haunt. It wouldn't be a negative haunt. Everybody thinks of negative when they think of haunting. They think of like negative haunting.
Well, that's why they would never use that term. We would, because we know what that means.
Right.
But if I were to have, let's just go the supernatural episode with the rabbit tail. You know,
yeah,
they called it a cursed object. But if you gave it, because they knew what was going on, if you gave that to somebody who had absolutely no idea about the paranormal or the supernatural or whatever, it's now their lucky rabbit foot.
Right.
So, I mean, they would use a completely different term. So I'm just saying, if anybody did have that story, I don't know if they would call it a haunted doll. They would call it a good luck charm.
They would call it a good luck charm. And if they talked about it, and I don't want this to sound negative, but if they talked about it in our society, it wouldn't be in their possession very long.
No, they'd be killed for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, somebody would be breaking into the house, not necessarily killing them, but somebody would be breaking into the house and lightening them of their possession of this doll.
Yes.
Now, that would be interesting in itself, in the fact that if this doll was attached to, in my example, like this person, because it was given to them by a grandparent type of thing, and it was meant to be good fortune for them in their lifetime, would that good fortune then continue to move forward with a new owner that took it by force that it was never intended for?
I think
that would almost get into like a curse type of thing, like a positive. Well, I don't know.
Well, I definitely think that if it's passed down through generations to only help that ancestor, that's magic. Like, that had it would be magic put onto it. So I think if anybody tried to take it away, I think those people would be severely punished.
I would think, I was going to say the same thing. Like, I think that doll would go from being a good luck charm to Annabelle. Right. I mean, it would be a 180 until it went back to its rightful owner. If the rightful owner wasn't, killed during the taking of the doll, if it was just stolen and they were fine still, it was just taken from them. If it went back to them, I think it would go back to its intent. It'd be interesting though. But like I said, I going back to where we started with this tangent, I would agree with you in the fact that I don't think that human spirits necessarily are what is possessing dolls. And I also do not believe that it's children possessing these dolls. That you can throw that out the door immediately. There's no children spirits attached to dolls,
Well,
because there is no such thing as children's spirits. I
takes
said it, and you can send all your hate mail and all of your arguments to try and prove me wrong to the show. I'll be more than happy to address them. And we have a lot of friends that have had a lot of experiences with what they consider to be children, and I've had experiences with children in quotes too. The whole concept of a child spirit being with a doll that's just bullshit.
Yeah,
I think the kids are moving on. So, what are you looking up?
Well, I'm trying to see if which of these dolls I had is the one that the guy claimed it was the spirit of a drowned boy.
Yeah, I don't think that was Robert, because Robert was given to Otto.
No. Yeah, there was,
and then he just passed away. And then when he died, the lady that bought the property became the new caretaker of the doll.
No, it definitely was not Robert. Only because, especially because Robert was never accused of having a spirit in him. He was accused of being alive.
Right.
And
well, let's start there, since we're talking about him, and I've got it pulled up right in front of me. So
well, hold on here before we actually get into the ones. You need to one, talk about your irrational fear of dolls, and two, what made you think? Well, you said you wanted to do this because you felt like you needed to talk about dolls.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to like why you think that is.
All right. So I've been doing a lot of lucid dreaming, projecting, whatever you want to call it, for the last month. I don't know why. It's just I do it infrequently these days. I used to a lot in the past, and then it stopped for a while. I just didn't want to do it anymore because I was leaving bits and pieces of myself out there when I was traveling, and that was a bad thing. And so I had stopped for a while, and for whatever reason, the energies have aligned themselves again in the universe with, this is the time for me to explore. So as I've been kind of bouncing around and having these amazing dreams and experiences in my dreams and traveling, I have on more than one occasion run into dolls that become a very vivid part of my dream for some reason. Not necessarily all bad. A couple of them were, probably not the best, but not all bad. But just the fact that I've been experiencing them in my my visitation dreams, my traveling dreams, I feel like they want me to bring it up. Like they want, for whatever reason, like there's something that wants me to talk about haunted dolls, and that whether it be us just talking about it and just airing something out, and whether it's this little tidbit of information that comes out that enlightens us, whether it's we discuss something that one of our viewers, one of our listeners is going to like, that is going to be the answer for this situation that they're going through in life right now. Like, holy crap, these guys hit it right on the head, and this is, what they talked about, and then they take that information and they resolve their issue. I don't know, but there's a reason why like my spirit guides, everything is saying like, this is like a topic that needs to be addressed sooner than later. So that's why I threw it past you. I'm like, you know what, we need to do haunted dolls, and kind of bring them up. I'm only afraid of two things. I've had people ask me hundreds of times, easily hundreds of times, aren't you afraid to go into that house? Knowing what the history is, aren't you afraid to go into that location? I know this person, and they've told me some of the things that have happened there, and I would never even go into their house, like for dinner. I wouldn't even go into their house to use the bathroom, and you're going to be there overnight by yourself. What, aren't you afraid? And No, I'm not, because I'm there with a purpose. I'm there, whatever I'm going to experience there, I've already experienced. Like I said, the only thing that I haven't experienced, honestly, would be Satan himself showing up and trying to screw with me. Like, that's the only thing that I haven't really experienced. That would be the only thing that would take me back and cause me to be in a fight or flight type of mode. The other two irrational fears that I have, which are just irrational fears, would be some type of haunted, possessed doll coming after me. Because in that respect, and it wouldn't be a doll like Chucky, it would be something that had the ability to manifest and teleport instantaneously, something that not is going to come at me with a physical object. I'm not afraid of an antique doll coming at me with a 3-inch paring knife. I mean, I'm not afraid of that physically, but it would just be the intent behind it would probably cause the fear inside of me. And then how am I going to defeat that entity when it's not really, when it's something much, much bigger than this doll? It's not the doll that's doing it. It's the entity that's behind the doll that's doing it. This is just the marionette or the puppet that's being used for the purpose, and the purpose is evil. And so therefore it's a big, it's all intertwined, but it's a big thing. Not an easy answer. It goes deeper than that. But and then the other thing, my other irrational fear would be zombies. And don't ask me why. I have absolutely no idea. But I think that sometime, and probably not in my lifetime, but I think it already could have happened, but I think that there will be someday some sort of chemical agent leaked out into the general populace, whether intentionally or whether somebody's trying to steal something and it accidentally escapes, or something bad happens during the heist or whatever, and it contaminates and infects a mass amount of people. And I'm not talking like a 2,000 person town. I'm talking like a major city with 7 million people in it. And, you know, this virus gets in these people and it makes them crazy, you know, enraged, whatever you want to call it, where they go on like this killing spree, or, you know, they feel the need to, or this virus is so strong that it needs to transfer itself. Right. And that's its whole entire life. So like World War Z kind of concept, like that's my idea of a zombie, you know, is like replication of the virus. Is the virus is not going to die. It needs to replicate itself. That's the sole intention once you get infected. So that could be a whole nother show too. But but getting back to dolls. So anyway, so yeah, so getting back to dolls, that's kind of what brought me to this topic. Was this all of this traveling I've been doing lately, and something telling me that it's time to talk about dolls. So yes, so let's transition from that into Robert.
Yes. So Robert the doll, I think his quote unquote powers are greatly exaggerated. I mean, he's right now for years now, he's been behind a glass case at, what is it, Fort Martello, East Martello Fort or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, down in the Keys. Yeah, Fort East Martello Museum in Key West.
When I typed in Robert the doll, you know, my original search, you know, it comes up with little snippets or whatever. And I read a couple that was like, Robert the doll, the most haunted doll in the world, has been terrorizing the people of Key West for decades. And I'm like, he's a museum piece. He ain't terrorizing anybody. I'm like, settle down. So, but it's important to talk about obviously where he came from and why people consider him the most haunted doll in the world, even though I think Annabelle has him, you know, easily has.
Yeah, I think in a death match, like the old the MTV celebrity death match on the claymation thing that they used to do, I think that Annabelle kicked Robert's ass in record time.
I actually have Celebrity Deathmatch on my PS2. It's amazing.
Nice. Yeah.
But anyway,
nice.
All right. So early 1900s, So Robert the doll has been around for a very, very long time, 120 years now, at least.
Yeah.
So he was given to a boy named Eugene Robert Otto. It was handmade, so it's one of a kind, handmade
Yep.
by his servant that worked for his parents. So, I mean, I find it interesting, though, right off the bat, that nobody knows the servant's name. Nobody knows what he was into. I mean, he literally could have been somebody who gave the doll and made the doll with a specific purpose to make this family suffer.
Could be, right? Like a voodoo type of thing, voodoo doll.
Even
though Wes would tell you that voodoo dolls are for healing, I don't agree with that 100% of the time. I think that potentially could be, but I also think that voodoo dolls are used for dark purposes.
Well, I mean, I think that's just magic in general. I
Yeah.
think it could be
It's just a vessel.
It doesn't have to be voodoo that does it, but I do think it is magic, obviously, that dark magic that causes these things. So they lived in a house. It's now called the Artist's House. I don't even know where it's in Key West. It actually has the address, 534 Eaton Street. But it was built
there you go. You're welcome.
1890 and 1898. So Eugene, everyone called him Gene, called the doll Robert. And over a couple of years, whatever, like they would have incidents where Eugene would start screaming for help, and there would be sounds of furniture overturning, and the parents would go and have to, break into the locked room, and there would be Gene, huddled in fear on his bed with furniture all overturned and in complete freaking chaos, and then Robert on the bed just sitting there. Gene would always say Robert did it. So, I mean, when I first read this, honestly, because this is the first time during research of this show and Robert, we actually read his background story.
Yep.
And it reminded me a lot of like The Conjuring and stuff like that, where, or a child who is looking for attention and destroys this thing and screams and, all this other stuff, and then blames the doll or blames some supernatural force. It wasn't until I got to later, when Gene died and the next family, found the doll in the attic, and they had bad stuff. They started dealing with the same type of stuff that it was like, okay, now it might be something. but I mean, honestly, just the sheer intensity of it just reminded me a lot of somebody who was faking stuff and looking for attention. But I mean, what was your take on it?
Well, I didn't go that route, but listening to you talk about it, I could totally see those huge, if it was the kid, okay, I could totally see those huge bursts of energy being a catalyst for filling this doll, potentially, right? Because everything has to. So if Robert is carrying around abilities, first of all, I got to say this because it's the first thing that I wanted to say about Robert. If this doll is carrying around abilities, and for crying out loud, it certainly seems like he is. He gets 1 to 3 pieces of mail. He gets 1 to 3 pieces of mail per day of people apologizing for disrespecting him or taking his photo without his permission and asking him for forgiveness. Because these people have been afflicted by the evil that Robert possesses. So anyway, how irresponsible this museum is it to have this damn thing out on display. So I just got to say that, because this is one of those moments where if this thing really is cursed, if this thing really is some sort of catalyst of negativity, and if it's really true, and there's a lot of ifs in my statement here, if it's really true that he doesn't like his picture taken or doesn't like to be disrespected, and somebody walks in and takes his picture and tells him that he's a joke and whatever, and he gets angered by that, and he has the ability to somehow affect you in a negative way, how irresponsible is it for us to have something like that out on display as human beings, right? So that aside, I just needed to throw that out there. That aside, I don't know that Robert is necessarily possessed, because I don't think he is. I think it's more of a curse. I think all the years of intent, so all of the years that young Otto referred to this doll as a real human being, like it never was my doll. It never was. He named him Robert, and he referred to him in the third person and said, "This is Robert." Like, we're going to sit down for dinner. Robert will be joining us for dinner tonight. Robert will be joining us on our trip this weekend. He was treated from the get-go like a living entity. We talk about intent all the time on the show. If you pass the intention that this thing is alive, and then you have these huge emotional outbursts, if it wasn't the doll, and it could have been Robert, but if it wasn't, if it was the kid, if it was a young Otto that was doing it and having these huge emotional outbursts coupled with this intent, that energy transference, I could see that happening. Now, would that take us to where we are today? That's the question. I don't think so. I'm not saying that something isn't going on with Robert. I think that it's more, I think that it's more people freaking themselves out about Robert than it is Robert freaking people out being Robert, like being a negative type of entity. I found a couple things that differ from what you talked about, so I'm just going to throw them out there. So the museum did some research that has them, and they traced Robert's origins. According to what they found, they traced Robert's origins to the Steiff Company. And if being in my past with being an antique collector, an antique store owner, Steiff teddy bears are some of the most collectible and most expensive bears in the world. So the Steiff, they think that he was made by Steiff. And for a little tidbit of people who didn't know this, the first teddy bear that was manufactured was made in honor of Theodore Roosevelt. Hence the name teddy bear. But it says here that Robert was most likely never intended to be sold as a toy. A Steiff historian told the museum that Robert was probably part of a set fabricated for a window display of clowns or jesters. So I find that to be interesting, that he was never meant to leave the building, that he was never meant to be outside of a window display, which that in itself, he's a one-off. Could that have something to do with it? Could the person who created him, because he was hand carved or handmade and then stuffed with straw. So could the person who made him had made him as something special? And then when Otto's grandfather saw him and had to absolutely have him, and somebody sold him to him, and then he brought him home and gave it to him, maybe he was not supposed to leave the place. Now that might be a stretch, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is that maybe he was never supposed to leave that display, and when he did, something happened.
You know what just popped in my head,
huh.
And it's going to come. It's going to come one of these days. Is how they turned Winnie the Pooh like into a horror movie?
Yeah, I saw
Blood and
it.
Honey. Oh, you did? Oh, is it
Yes.
amazing?
It's absolutely horrible.
Oh, I want to see it so bad now.
Yeah,
Anyway,
you do. You'll probably love it because it's one of those kind of movies that is just like, what? Oh my God.
Your description of how he was made, and that he was hand carved, he was handmade,
Yep.
to be something special, just popped in my head as the horror origin story of Pinocchio.
Yeah, true.
I think that's coming.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do it, Disney.
Yeah.
And I want credit for it. So, but I find that exceptionally interesting, though, that you found, the beginning story of he was made by a factory, for whatever purpose.
For
But
the
what
Stipe
I
Company,
saw
yeah.
was that he was handmade by a servant and given to him. So we've already got two separate stories as to how Robert was created.
Right.
I mean,
Origin story.
So who knows now? Again, and this goes to myth and legend and stuff like that, and urban legend. Did we create Robert? Are we keeping him alive?
Well, we certainly are feeding something. We certainly are feeding something. The guy receives 1 to 3 letters a day of apology letters. It's a freaking cork. It's a doll. He's receiving mail by human beings. Are handwriting this guy, this doll, and sending him things. We certainly are keeping whatever energy Robert has. We certainly are keeping that alive and keeping it well fed.
Right. And so here's the thing that, and it kind of makes me laugh about Robert the doll. And even though we could talk about Robert doll the whole rest of the show. So I mean, I a couple more things and then we'll have to move on. Because I do honestly don't want to talk about Annabelle. Everybody knows about Annabelle.
Yeah, if we don't get to Annabelle, we can talk about Annabelle another day.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, because we've got, I looked up 5 or 6 dolls, and I don't want to dismiss Robert since we're on a good path here with Robert. So let's get through what we want to say about Robert, and then we'll see what kind of time's left.
Yeah, because I do want to talk about some of these unknown, dolls and whatnot. But it was they put Robert up in the attic. Well, he didn't like that, and so
Right.
they had claims of people would come over and they would have somebody walking upstairs in the attic.
Oh yeah, things being dragged across the floor, and they would hear it. Like multiple people would hear it.
Yeah, like there was when Jean would go to school or whatever, like some of the kids would say that Robert was looking at them from the bedroom window and mocking them as they walked past. And even though he's supposed to be locked up in the attic, Jean would open the bedroom door and there would be Robert.
Yep.
Sitting on the bed or sitting by the window, and he'd go and lock him up in the attic again, and they'd find him the next day or however long it took or whatever, and he'd be back downstairs in the bedroom. So I mean, when Jean died in 1974, so we're already 70 years that Robert's been around.
And that's Robert's death. He got him as a boy. So, right, take into effect. Or Jean's death, right. Sorry. Yeah, Jean's death died in 74. So, and he got him as a boy. So, yeah. I don't know how old he was, but when he got him, or how old he was when he died, sorry. So, that could be, he could have been 70. That could be another 70 years.
Exactly.
So, now you're at 140 years that Robert's been around.
So, when he died, a new family moved into the house.
Yep.
And their little girl excitedly found the doll up in the attic, and that soon went to shit.
Yep.
for better terms. The parents she as well would be screaming in the middle of the night. I mean, no furniture moved around, but she would claim that Robert was moving around the room. And it wasn't long before Robert was given away. Can't imagine.
Yeah, it was given to the museum.
Was given to the East Martello Fort. Yeah.
Yep. So here's something interesting too, and this is like unsettling, right? Is that when the new caretakers got Robert, and the new family after Gene passed away in 74, and they found the doll, that prior to that, they would hear giggling and playing in the attic, and that's what
Demonic
caused them to go
giggling.
upstairs. Yeah, well, now that's creepy in itself. Here's something though, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but this really caught my eye, is that when Robert would be downstairs with the new family, anytime that somebody would badmouth Otto while Robert was present, his facial expression would change. And many people witnessed it. That's interesting to me, that there would be some sort of manipulation to the exterior of this doll's face. Like, I wish that somebody had a camera on him, I mean, they didn't, but I mean, I wish somebody would have had been like, have you guys ever noticed, like, when we say something about Gene, like the doll gets upset, and then like go set up a video camera and actually document that happened. I mean, I know that's an investigator's mentality, not somebody in 1980, whatever, late 70s, whenever, this was happening. I grew up through those times, and that was the farthest thing from people's minds, was trying to worrying about getting out there over the shoulder, RCA, slap a VHS tape in and, restart recording something. That just wasn't happening. There was not the convenience of whipping out your phone and getting, 8K high def 4 billion LiDAR pinpoint pictures. I say that with a little bit of sarcasm, but anyway, so the other thing that I want to point out about Robert before we jump out of here is, and I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if a lot of people know this, but he was the doll that inspired the horror movie franchise of Chucky.
Sounds about right. I mean, when I got the whole screaming, the dolls moving around the room, I'm like, that's Chucky.
Yeah.
I wanted to say this though, because it kind of goes to what you're talking about the recklessness of the East Fort. So as the staff members report that Robert's facial expression changes, so that still is a thing, even though Otto's gone. Hearing demonic giggling, and have seen Robert put his hand up to the glass.
That's cool.
So the last paragraph,
cool from an investigator standpoint,
right? So, but
not cool in real life.
Here's the thing that I got about the whole recklessness. So it's the last paragraph of this page. It says, meet Robert at the East Martello Museum. Visitors are welcome to view Robert in his special case at the museum, and of course, encouraged to try and get a photo. Though most who've tried have been unsuccessful. If nothing else, get a close look at Robert and watch him carefully. Try to catch a glimpse of him smirking at you, moving about in his case, and watching you as you watch him. Yep.
Here's where I'll kind of leave what I want to say about Robert. So it's interesting because people leave him, somewhere down the line here, it said that Robert has a sweet tooth, and who knows, that's a man-made bullshit. But anyway, people leave him candy all the time and money. And it says here from the director of the museum, occasionally joints, which I find hilarious. But kind of before we move on, here's what I'll say about this is that if you want to, you pay for it, obviously, you can overnight at the museum and investigate Robert. So
nice. That would be,
it's interesting. I honestly, I wouldn't be afraid to in any way, shape, or form, but I don't know that I would. I don't know. If I were getting paid to do it, hey, we're going to prove to us, get some proof. And it was I was going for it. And then, here, we'll give you a reward type of thing. I would go for it, but just for myself to go, I probably wouldn't.
I honestly think that, let's just say for the sake of argument, that Robert is cursed or he's got some energy, life to him, whatever. He honestly seems to be a attention hog.
Seeker. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he likes to do these big things in order to get attention. And
Right.
so it's just, I don't know what I would do if I took a tour of that place. I don't know if I would try and get under his skin by giving him no attention. Just be like, it's Robert, and then move on to the next, and don't really pay much attention to it. Or if I would literally just be like, I don't know why anybody thinks that you're real,
Now that right there would piss him off.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting, but I don't think I would pay to investigate him because that would be like a half-hour session, and then there's nothing more you can do. And I really find it interesting, and that goes to the thing that it's not really real, because if they allow investigating and people are actually doing that, there has been no reports whatsoever of ever getting an EVP off of him,
or any video or photographic evidence of facial expressions changing, or him touching the glass, or EVPs of the demonic giggle. I mean, it's all just hearsay.
Yeah. And that's what makes me, again, just be like, whether I believe he's a real haunted, or not even a haunted, a live doll, an active doll to begin with. So that's all I'm going to say on Robert.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good story, right? I mean, it's a good story, and that's where I would leave it.
Yeah,
I agree with you. If it was as bad as they say it is, it wouldn't be on display. I mean, that's really the bottom line. It wouldn't be out, like, sitting out where thousands and thousands and thousands of people can just go and piss it off.
Very true.
There'd be enough kickback by society for that to not be the case.
I don't know. It is Florida.
I'll give you that. It is Key West.
It is.
There's a lot of free thinkers in Key West.
Yeah. Well,
beautiful location, beautiful part of the world, but a lot of free thinking going on in Key West.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So just really quick, just because I think that this is, I was talking about Letta the doll. That is the one that the guy claims is possessed by the restless spirit of a drowned boy. I just want to.
That's the one in Australia, right?
Yes, that's the Australia,
like the 200-year-old one or whatever.
Yeah. So basically, just a brief synopsis. This guy finds this doll like underneath the floorboards of a porch of a neighbor of his parents, and for whatever reason decided to take him home, and in the car on the way home, put him in the trunk, and he heard this scream from the trunk saying, "Let me out," and that and that was Letta.
How he named it.
Letta the doll.
Yeah.
And he goes around Australia to shows, and he shows off Letta, and Letta has a Facebook and a Instagram for the doll. And they're taking photos and with the family, and there's this little girl holding Letta, and I honestly 100% think that this is complete crock of shit. I don't believe
I would agree with you. I didn't even
in any way, shape, or form that this is real.
I think look it up, because I think it's creepy looking, and they said they tested it or whatever, and it's like 200 years old. But I agree with you. I don't think there's anything happening here other than it's a really old, really unique kind of, it is creepy looking. I wouldn't, let's put it this way, I wouldn't like set it in my bedroom on a chair facing the bed.
Well, that's you. You wouldn't.
I wouldn't. Yeah. But I agree with you. I don't think that there's any, I think this is a publicity move, is what I think.
Yeah, I think this guy probably found it in an antique store and created an entire story,
The whole story.
backstory, and thing that was going to make him money. I mean, that's the whole. You don't take a haunted doll or whatever and give it an Instagram and take it around to shows. I mean, you do that because you want to make money,
right?
And you want the publicity, you want the popularity, you want the money. And so I mean, this possession of Letta the doll, especially with the restless spirit of a drowned boy, is pure poppycock.
It's just it's a blatant attempt to get on the haunted doll bandwagon. Is what I'll say.
Yeah, I think so too.
I kind of think that's where it's at. So, I want to talk about Lily. While we got a little bit of time. So
I don't know anything about Lily, so I'm excited.
All right. So I'm going to kind of verbatim some of this because I found some really good information and it would be exactly what I would say. So I'm just going to kind of read it off here. So historians that have tracked Lily's background date it back to the early 1600s, discovering tales of mystical practices, pagan rituals, and warding rites imported from Europe by the Dutch colonists of Lower Manhattan. Handmade figures at that time, like Lily, were left out to scare off local spirits and New World ghosts, an archaic custom dating back to the Vikings and the Romans. The original Lily was delivered to a paranormal research organization from its owner, who stated, "I found her outside my door one morning with a note that said not to put her by mirrors or in the same room I sleep in. I gave her a flashlight so she could drain the batteries, but instead, she makes my lights in my house flicker at night. My cat would not go near her, and my dog would just sit in the corner and stare at her. At times, I would be woken up from a dead sleep smelling burnt toast, or if it wasn't burnt toast, a sweet, fruity smell. Her favorite color is red. That's all I know about her." Interesting background. This doll's older than shit, like early 1600s. The doll started to act strange and give off extremely unnerving paranormal vibes. And in a fit of wisdom, the group that got her started to mass produce dolls using the origin template. And now you can actually own a Lily doll for yourself. Isn't that sweet?
$49.99.
Yeah. So I found this interesting too. So it says haunted dolls have always fascinated humanity since their bygone days in Egyptian lore as a talisman against demons and other nasty critters, to their stump through medieval Europe as not only playthings, but as ritual fetishes against vampires, ghosts, and ghouls. The first haunted dolls in history, and most of the ones outside of the United States, aren't evil creations hell-bent on our destruction, but magical entities emboldened by noble spirits to fight against the forces of darkness and to protect us. And that comes from a site called Miami Haunts that I happened to come upon. So credit to them. But I found that really interesting, the background piece, because when I looked up Lily, I was interested because when I saw her, I'm like, this doll's been around for a long time. And then I saw kind of like the history and some of the background of her and why she was made. That might go back and answer our first original question at the beginning of the hour, which was, why would dolls be haunted? If this is history that I couldn't find because I just couldn't get through the Google crap, it keeps wanting to direct you to one thing. And now for the next 6 months, every time I pull up my search engine, it's going to have haunted dolls is going to be the number one thing that shows up in every single thing. But if you go back to medieval times and you go back to Egyptian lore as talismans against demons and other things, medieval Europe as playthings or as ritual items against vampires, ghosts, and ghouls, it kind of makes sense. Back then magic was a huge practice. Paganism was strong back in medieval Europe. Christianity wasn't around, and when it was around, it was forced down people's throats. Obviously, everybody knows that. So were they imbuing these dolls with magic back then? You know, were they literally doing some type of conjuring ceremony, actually conjuring some type of spirit, or hopefully not, but some type of demonic entity or some type of negative energy that they then forcefully placed into this doll that they made, and then used that doll as some type of warrior, some type of protection fighter, you know, I mean, for lack of a better term, some type of protection warrior that they would place in their home or place by the door or place in the yard, you know, as something like we talk about now, like placing tar water in a house or placing 4 blessed metals at the corners of your property as a way to keep negative things out. Going back into pagan times, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if these things were imbued with energies and magic that were kind of given a life of their own. I think that's logically possible. So I think the history of Lily is fascinating. The fact that they replicated her, I mean, and that was obviously a money move. I don't think that Lily's purpose on the planet Earth is to hunt down mankind and kill you, but it's one of those dolls that I think truly is haunted, and what is haunting it, I don't know. And so it's one of those kind of like, let's not poke the bee's nest, for me anyway.
You know, the thing about it is, you know, and you kind of said it, because you're talking about how dolls or whatever were used as warriors against the evil forces or against anything negative. They would put it on the mantle, they would put it all over. I mean, and now we do like blessed crosses and we do Christian stuff. And I mean, honestly, I don't know if there's anything to any of it. It's used as a symbol. It's used as something that we focus on. You know, we talked about before in the stories about, you know, if it makes you more comfortable, wear a blessed cross. If it makes you more comfortable, bring, you know, a crystal.
Right.
It's all how we perceive everything. So, I mean, if somebody lives in the lifetime where dolls are the protector against evil, and you put a doll up on the mantle or you put it wherever at the front door, doesn't matter where you put it.
Right.
But to you feel more comfortable. You feel more protected. Your intent now is your focus is on protection and comfortability. I mean, so who's to say like there's anything that has to do with any of it? It's all what we believe it's supposed to mean. It's all what we believe it does. You know, I wonder, you know, not to really go back to Robert, but I mean, people do it to Annabelle too, is they go in with the foreknowledge of if they do this, then Robert's going to get them. And, you know, and if anything happens, they instantly are like, oh my God, I'm now cursed. And they just make it worse because but I will bet you that if you stood outside the East Moretta Fort or whatever, you stood outside the Warrens Museum, and you sold for $5 a medal or a pendant that looked really cool, and you're like, if you wear this, you are completely safe. I would bet you
you'd sell out. Yeah.
Well, you'd sell out, but I bet you nobody would leave that place and blame anything on Annabelle, or they would do this and they would do this and they would do that to the doll. They would take a photo, like all pictures would go through. Like, I bet you nothing would happen ever, because everyone that looked at Robert or everyone that looked at Annabelle or any of these dolls, they feel completely safe, and their focus is not on what bad shit is going to happen to me if I do this.
Right.
Let's find out. So, I mean, I'm wondering if any of these dolls, Lily or whatever, it is just a symbol that we then put the energy into as protector.
I was waiting for you to get to that last line.
Protector?
Well, energy that we put into.
Oh,
because
intent, energy, yeah.
right, because there are, I mean, truly haunted dolls, and they exist, right? They're just a vessel, but they exist. There is that, things that we use as paranormal investigators to document evidence that we consider to be reliable proof of otherworldly existence. Those same pieces of equipment used with these dolls, these famous dolls, set our equipment off. Like if you were at an investigation, you'd be like, "Holy shit, this place is rolling." You know, does it happen all the time? No, but does it happen? Is it documented? Is it recorded? I mean, does a tri-field meter peg out? At 100 plus? Sure. Do REM pods and MEL meters explode to max? Yeah. And is it documented? Yeah. So somewhere along the line here, where is that energy being placed into that vessel? Is it just thought? Is it global consciousness? Do people feed Robert by going in there knowing the background story? I think that happens with Annabelle. I think that everybody is deathly afraid of Annabelle. And I think that just the whole story of it. And I believe it. I believe the background story from the Warrens. I believe the background story from the people who got him. I have no reason to disbelieve it. I think that as you walk into the situation with Annabelle, I would go in there very, very cautiously. And I would love to go to the Warrens Museum. I would go in there very cautiously. And I would go in there with respect, not respect of the negative entity that's in the doll, respect for the location so that I don't pick up an attachment. Just to be safe. In that case, it would be one of those situations where I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Sure. I just, and this just kind of just goes along with that same thing, but I remember a psychic medium investigator that I had named Ricky. Very good, very good. But she told me that if you had a quarter in your hand, just a normal quarter, and you were absolutely convinced that this was a lucky quarter and that it was going to make you $1 million, that the universe would then, you would get $1 million, but you would have to literally be completely convinced that this quarter was going to help you do it. And that's just the power of thought. I mean, right. And when you add in global consciousness, because now Robert is popular, Annabelle right. is very popular.
Right.
And so, I mean, if he gets visited and Annabelle gets visited by hundreds of people a day and they're all focusing on him, I mean, who's to say that we didn't create the very dolls that we're scared the shit of? Because all we did was pour our fear of them into them.
It makes sense. We do it with locations. We've got a location here in Minnesota, and I'm not going to say what it is, but there's a location in Minnesota that was completely blank slate. Didn't have anything going on. Nothing was happening. And the person who bought it made up a story and said, this place is, oh my God, the activity is off the charts. And people who went there, there was absolutely nothing happened. And teams that went there was nothing happened. But as time went by and people started talking about it and people went there with investigation and the intent of finding evidence of it being haunted, the place somehow now produces evidence. Mm-hmm. Now, if you could do it to a house, you could do it to a doll. Right? I mean,
yep. I was saying, and on that note, we're out of time.
Mm-hmm.
So
I saw that too.
So, everybody, we'll be back next week. I'm sure the topic of haunted dolls probably will come up again. So and we got plenty more to talk about when it comes to them. So won't be next week, but
No.
we'll come back to them. So we'll be back next week. Thank you for listening, and stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here. Everyone have